My name is William Lewis, and I'm so delighted to welcome you this afternoon. Each year we set a day aside for the celebration of Honors Day for our students who have achieved so much during the academic year. Indeed, they have excelled themselves. These are students who have Q average of 0.3 plus. So we are just excited to have them this afternoon. And they have spent an enormous amount of time in the pursuit of excellence. And I just want to start with a quote from Aristotle. Excellence is an art won by training and reputation. We do not act rightly because we have virtue or excellence, but we rather have those because we have acted rightly. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. These are students who have developed excellence as a habit. Please welcome them and give them a round of applause. At this time, I will call on our chair, Dr. Liara Robertson.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I want to thank everyone, students and family and friends for joining us today. We like to take this occasion every year to celebrate our excellent students, and we'd like to thank you all for joining us today. Our speaker is running a little late, so we're going to proceed forward with the program. I would like to acknowledge Dean of College of Arts and Science for joining us today. I don't know if he wants to say a word.
Good evening, scholars, parents, faculty, and staff. Notice I said scholars. Because in fact, we are here to celebrate scholars. And once you are trained and you are given the title of a scholar, you never go back. You are tattooed for life. So this is a time of year that parents are proud of their scholars. And faculty are also proud of having been able to contribute to developing scholars. Yeah. So that is what we get as benefit for being faculty members. We are also scholars. And we set the example for our students to follow. So again, once again, I'm so happy that we have quite a few members in our community, our scholars who come from the History and Government program. In fact, on the 25th of April, we are going to celebrate what we call the 10th Annual Celebration of Excellence for the College of Arts and Sciences. And we have a number of students from the History and Government Department who are going to be honored. I think you have received your list already. Yeah. So we are looking forward to those students to bring their parents and loved ones to come and see them in that bigger audience. About 200 or more people will be assembled by the president and provost. And we are going to say a nice congratulations to you for the good work that you've done. But again, once again, I'm very happy that our faculty and staff have that kind of love and passion for preparing students for life. And this year, they have a wonderful crop of students that have excelled in various ways. And that's why I'm beaming with a smile that I can call you scholars. So please don't disappoint me, don't disappoint your parents, don't disappoint yourself. You are scholars for life, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Dean Clark for joining us. So we will proceed with the program.
Hello, I'm Dr. Tamara Brown. I'm an associate professor and director of women's studies in the Department of History and Government here at Bowie State University. I would like for our faculty members in the Department of History and Government who are here to please acknowledge where they are and introduce themselves. We'll start with Dr. Davidson.
Roger Davidson, Associate Professor of History, Department of History and Government.
Carmen Walker, Associate Professor of Government, Department of History and Government.
Coleman Jackson, Professor of Government, Department of History and Government.
William Lewis, Professor of Government.
Benjamin Arad, History and Government.
And we'd like to introduce one of our newest members to the department.
Hello, everyone. I'm Margot Buck-Hurley. I'm the new administrative aide for the Department of History and Government.
Thank you so much. The department cannot run smoothly without, Ms. Buck-Hurley has been a godsend, I'll just say that. So thank you so much, and all of the professors here today are very proud of the students, and you'll see why. The Department of History and Government contributes to Bowie State University's major mission as a regional comprehensive liberal arts university. It provides an atmosphere that promotes intellectual development, scholarship, and critical thinking for a diverse group of students. In addition to the majors in history and government, we offer minors in geography, government, history, philosophy, pre-law, women's studies, historical management, international studies, and Pan-African studies. This academic year, we have 107 combined majors and minors. Our numbers are steadily going up. We have 95 current history and government majors. We have 40 history majors and 55 government majors. And as I said, we're at a 3-year high in our departmental enrollment. Overall in the department, students maintain an overall average of 2.97. This moved up from last year, which was 2.89. So I guess all the haranguing has worked. Now, okay, the part that I like a lot. Yay, okay. So our government majors have maintained an average of 2.96, and that is up from 2.85 last year. But our history majors, yay, history, we have maintained an average of 2.98. So we take the crown this year. And overall, the department continues to foster one of the highest graduation and retention rates of all the departments on campus. Having a major in history and government will set you up for life. You can do a lot of things with this major. And so don't let people deter you and think that STEM is everything. You need to be able to critically think. And that's one of the things that this department helps you to do. This year we have an unprecedented number of honorees. Nearly a third of our majors and minors have a 3.25 and above. This is outstanding. And although you get tired of us constantly on your backs to get those papers in, do the homework, improve, 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 it has paid off. Okay, it has paid off. As your faculty members, we are extremely proud of you. We have intelligent, creative, and very hardworking students. Thank you. Now, Dr. Lewis, introduce our speaker.
At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker for the afternoon, the Honorable Russian L. Baker III. Honorable Baker is a committed and highly regarded public servant, having recently concluded a successful 8-year term as County Executive of Prince George's County, Maryland, the second largest jurisdiction in Maryland. He started his political career in the Maryland House of Delegates in 1994, where he served until 2002. Mr. Baker has received numerous awards and honors from several organizations, including the National Forum for Black Public Administrators, National Leadership Award for Public Service, and the most innovative executive of the year for minority business from the Maryland Washington Minority Contractors Association. His alma mater, Howard University, conferred an honorary Doctor of Laws degree in the year 2013, as well as a Distinguished Alumni Award in 2014. Washingtonian Magazine named Mr. Baker a 2014 Washingtonian of the Year, and the Latino Leaders Network presented him with his 2015 Chairman's Award. Additionally, Governing Magazine selected him as one of its 2015 Public Officials of the Year, and the following year, the Alzheimer's Association selected him as a 2016 Public Service Honoree. Ladies and gentlemen, besides Mr. Baker's accomplishments, Mr. Baker has come back to Bowie State as an adjunct professor. Quite impressive. Mr. Baker could have gone to Harvard or to Yale as a fellow and make far more money than he's earning at Bowie State. But he has come back, and we are delighted to have you, Mr. Baker.
Thank you for a very kind introduction. This is Mike? Okay. How's everyone doing this afternoon? All right. This is indeed a pleasure and an honor to be here. I want to thank you for inviting me. I've got our oldest daughter who's here with me today, Aja Baker, sitting right up here, who is, yes, give her a round of applause. So she knows this speech probably already. She knows how much I love history and how I try to get each and every one of my children to major in history, which none of them listen to me. But I couldn't help but thinking, I should say this, I am, one of the things they talked about was teaching here at Bowie State University. That's probably the wrong way to phrase it. I'm actually learning here. I've got some of the brightest students I've ever come across in my life, in my class. And every day they challenge me, and I grow from that challenge. I could have used them when I was county executive or when I was running for governor. But when I was here today, Tatiana, stand up. Give her a round of applause. She is so bright. But I want to go back just for a minute and talk about how I became a history major because, like most parents, when I told my dad that, I should say this, I grew up in the military. My father did 30 years in the Army. He was stationed in Fort Bragg, so he was a Green Beret and a Ranger. And he and my mom left Valdosta, Georgia with 1 high school diploma and 2 children. They were 18 and 19. And leaving the segregated South and joining the military, my dad did it to provide a better way for himself and his family. And so he always knew, no matter what, that his children were going to go to college. It just so happened that his second oldest child was really, really bad when he was young. And I struggled with reading in the 1st and 2nd grade. And I had to repeat the 1st and 2nd grade. And so if you can imagine being very young and you're 2 years older than your peers, when you move around from place to place to place, kids can sometimes be very cruel. And I would get challenged once they found out my age. And I always accepted the challenge. And therefore, I had a history of being kicked out of every school that I went to, here in the United States and a couple in Okinawa, Japan. So the thought that I would actually go to college was just something, especially at that time, that most people probably wouldn't have saw. But my dad did. He knew that he was preparing for his child to go to school. And he knew that he was preparing for us to make a difference in the world. And so when I finally did, you know, later on, I understood the opportunity. And this is the thing I try to talk to people about when I was county executive. Every time I fell down, every time I slipped, every time I got kicked out of school, my parents were there. It never dawned on me that my life was different than anybody else. It didn't. I took it for granted that they would always be there and I would always get this help. It was only when we were living in Okinawa, Japan, and we had been there 4 years. And during that time, back here in the United States, we were going through this period, and some of the older folks will know this, busing in the north. And so my dad had decided that when we came back to the States, he was going to retire, and he wanted to retire in Massachusetts. And so his last duty station was going to be to teach ROTC at MIT. But what we didn't, you didn't have internet then, so you didn't have TV that can tell you what was going on. And so while we were in Okinawa, we had no clue that in Boston, race riots were jumping out. It wasn't until my dad came back here and saw that Boston was a really dangerous place at the time for African Americans because of busing. And so he moved his family north of Boston to a place called Beverly, Massachusetts. And so we came back to the States. Everyone hadn't been here in a while, and so we were like happy to be back here in the world, as we called it then. And the first thing my brother and I noticed when we got to our new high school was that two things. It was cold as heck, because we came back here in February, and it was really, really cold. And we had left Okinawa, which is 92 degrees year-round. So we hadn't seen snow in years. The second thing we noticed when we walked through the high school was there were no people of color. The town had one black family, and that was us. But the reason I bring that story up, and I'll bring it to a close, is up until this time, my pattern was pretty much similar. I go to school, I get in a fight, I get kicked out. It was, you just repeat it. And the only thing I really cared about during that time was football. I was so sure I was going to be the greatest running back. I was going to be the next Larry Brown, is what I thought. It was going to happen. And I was good at it. And for the first time, the people kind of gave me a pass. They said, well, you might not do anything academically, but we'll just let him, pass him on. Either get him out of here or he'll do something else. At this school, where we were the only African Americans in there, I ran into a teacher I couldn't charm, an English teacher, who said in order for me to play football and to get a good grade, I had to do an extra book report. I had to do a book report for extra credit. And I was like, man, I hate reading, worst thing in anything in the world. And she said, okay, I'll give you a choice. You can choose between one of these two books. One was Wuthering Heights, really good book. The other was this strange book called Black Boy. I didn't know Wuthering Heights, and I didn't know Black Boy. But one thing I could do is count pages. Black Boy was that big. Wuthering Heights was that big. I picked Black Boy. And it changed my life. The words of Richard Wright hit home to me that the life I had been living was a gift. And for 16 years, I had really just squandered that gift. And I had made a determination that I was going to change my life and change the things, that I wanted to do something different. I wanted to make sure everybody could have the same opportunities I got by just being lucky enough to be born and blessed enough to be born to two great parents. And so I decided then and there, actually with a conversation with my dad, he was so happy I was interested in something other than football, that we started watching political events together. And I remember as a 17-year-old, watching a debate on TV with my dad of the one, by this time we had moved from Beverly, Mass to Springfield, Massachusetts. And we had one African-American representative, state representative in the area. And he'd been there like 20 years. And so as a 17-year-old, I'm railing against this guy on TV. I'm like, you know what? He only comes around when it's time for election. Y'all know what y'all say. You only see him during the time of election. Nothing's changed. And my dad turned to me and he said, if you think you can do better, you should run. And as any 17-year-old who always knows more than their parents, and so they think, I said, that's what I'm going to do. And it was there that I decided that, you know what, I was going to go into politics. I didn't know anything about politics. I didn't know any politicians. But I was going to do this. And so I decided to go to Howard University in Washington, D.C., because politicians live in D.C., right? It made sense to me. And so I go to Howard University and I'm going to major in political science, because politicians or politics, political science goes together. That's my logic. I get to Howard University and I major in political science. My dad ain't quite happy with the political science thing, but he can live with it. He'd prefer business or economics. He'd prefer I'd make a living. And I really did not, I hate to say this, I really was not a fan of the political science classes. I was just like, man, this is just not me. I found it very boring. No offense to political science people. But at Howard, you could get extra credit, you know, for getting your teachers good graces by going to lectures, like here today. If you had a lecture, you know, professor would come to you and say, hey, if you go to this lecture, you know, you really, you know, get a couple of extra points. And at Howard, I went to a lecture. And those of you who understand history, Rayford Logan was still alive then. And the lecture was being done by Rayford Logan. And I had been reading all these books as a child, as a 17-year-old, and I never thought I'd meet Rayford Logan. And he's given this lecture, and the next person on the panel is Chancellor Williams, who had written The Destruction of the Black Civilization. And then there was a lady by the name of Lorraine Williams, who was a historian, had brought in historical documents at Moreland Spingarn at Howard, and she was on the panel. And then they were having John Hope Franklin come the next week. And I just went crazy. I was like, I've got to be around these folks. And so I called my dad and I said, Dad, I got great news. He said, what is it? You know, did you get all A's? I said, no, I'm going to change my major. And he said, great, what is it, honey? I said, history. He said, oh my God. You will be unemployed for the rest of your life. He said, could you at least minor in economics? I said, no, I'm going to minor in classics. I want to make sure I'm unemployed. It was the best decision I could ever make. Yes. I stand before you today having served as the 7th County Executive of the 2nd largest jurisdiction in the state of Maryland, having had the honor of getting an endorsement from the Washington Post to run for governor, having been a legislator, having understand how you change the dynamics of this county because I studied history. When I want to understand leadership, I don't read a leadership book, I read biographies. History is the ability to think and to learn. As I learned from my professors at Howard, everything is history. If you're studying science, it's history. Art is history. When I was in law school, my favorite classes were constitutional law and the history of law. But it's the best major in the world. It will provide you the opportunities to lead. And that is why any chance I get to come back, and they don't let me do it often, because they try to tell me I'm a lawyer, not a historian. But I will leave you with this. During my 8 years of county executive, we had some really challenging times in this county when I took over. In 2010, when I was coming in to be county executive, Prince George's County faced not only the worst financial crisis we had ever seen, we had rising crime in our county. Businesses would not come here into our county. And a brand new county executive had to take over. And so what I had to do was think about how I was going to put together a government. Who were the men and women that were going to help me? And the way that I thought about putting together my cabinet was by reading what Washington did with the invention of the word cabinet itself. Looking at what Lincoln did in developing his cabinet, what Franklin Roosevelt and Teddy Roosevelt did, and then understanding how John F. Kennedy put together his. And it allowed me to shape not only the cabinet, but to shape the future of this county. I got that from history. Thank you.
Once again, I'd like to thank Mr. Baker for joining us and giving those very inspiring words. As much as I would like to frown upon his romanticizing of history, even though my PhD is in political science, my undergrad degree was in history, and it led me to that path. So I'd like to thank you again for joining us and also sharing your wisdom with our students this semester. With that said, we'd like to move forward with our Honor Society inductees. We're going to be doing Pi Sigma Alpha, and Dr. Arau, who's the coordinator of the Pi Sigma Alpha Honor Society.
Members of Pi Sigma Alpha, candidates for initiation and induction, the Bobo State University administrators and faculty, our guest speaker, family members, students and friends. We bring greetings to all of you, and thank you for coming. We are here today for the purpose of initiating new members into the Pi Sigma Alpha, the National Political Science Honor Society. Pi Sigma Alpha was founded in 1920 at the University of Texas in Austin to encourage and recognize superior achievement in the study of government and politics at both undergraduate and graduate levels, with chapters now numbering well over 600. And with over 7,000 students joining its ranks each year, it's still the only recognized college honor society in the discipline, and is now one of the largest constituent members of the Association of College Honor Society.
The study of politics and government is one of the noblest academic pursuits, because a deep and true understanding of the principles by which we govern ourselves contributes directly to the quality of life of our lives and well-being of future generations. You have demonstrated, both by your interest in and commitment to this discipline, and by your high scholastic achievement, that you have the potential to excel as citizens and scholars, and so deserve the honor of membership in Pi Sigma Alpha. With this special honor come the special obligations of leaders to exemplify and safeguard the academic aims of this university, the honesty and integrity of its scholars, and the ideals of your alma mater. You have earned membership in this illustrious society by attaining the highest standards of scholarship, not only in the discipline of political science, but in your overall academic work as well. In accordance with the rigorous criteria set forth in the National Constitution of Pi Sigma Alpha and the bylaws of Phi Upsilon chapter at Bowie State University, and the requirements of the Association of College Honor Societies. Will the following candidates for the initiation into Phi Sigma Alpha, the National Political Science Honor Society, please come forward? Ms. Emily Pete. Ms. Joan McCoy. Mr. Chukwuma Isebo. Your eligibility for membership in Phi Sigma Alpha has been vouched for by Dr. Benjamin Arral, the Phi Upsilon BSU chapter advisor. And so all are duly invited to lifetime membership in both the National Organization of Pi Sigma Alpha and this Phi Upsilon chapter at Bowie State University. By accepting this honor, you signify your acceptance of and commitment to the ideals of high scholarship, integrity, and citizenship embodied in the goals of this institution and of Pi Sigma Alpha.
The candidates, please repeat after me. I, state your names. State your names.
Joanne McCoy.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the bylaws
that I will support the bylaws
of our Pi Sigma Alpha
of our Pi Sigma Alpha
and will faithfully
and will faithfully
and impartially
and passionately
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
and responsibilities
and responsibilities
pertaining to my membership in this association.
pertaining to my membership in this association.
Congratulations.
Ms. Emily Pete. John McCoy.
Just wait for good progress.
Now we're going to take a group picture.
You will also receive another certificate from the National Pi Sigma Association office in Washington.
Thank you.
This button, the first button.
gonna say, how many historians does it take to light a candle? Oh my goodness. You want a lighter?
Yes, I do. I say twice.
Mr. Baker, you weren't the only one whose father was really upset. In fact, he forced me to major in economics. And then when I graduated, I had a master's and PhD in history. He asked me what I was going to do with it, and I said, well, if I have to give tours through Rock Creek Park, that's what I do.
Yeah, but that doesn't help me. I don't do fire. I'm not gonna start a fire, but I don't do fire. You? Anyway.
History major. If I was a lawyer, I'd be trying to figure out how to.
It's always some technical. Okay, it's time for the star of the hour, the Phi Alpha Theta inductions. I was a political science major undergraduate, okay? But in graduate school, I went back to my first love, history. So, see, they interchange, they intertwine and interchange. Anyway, so for Phi Alpha Theta, may I have my inductees come forward, please? Brianna Chukwuma. They're both of them. Okay, so Phi Alpha Theta, we are a professional society whose mission is to promote the study of history through the encouragement of research, good teaching, publication, and exchange of learning and ideas among historians. We seek to bring students, teachers, and writers of history together for intellectual and social exchanges, which promote and assist historical research and publication by our members in a variety of ways. On behalf of the Sigma Lambda chapter of Phi Alpha Theta, I would like to welcome you to our initiation of new members. Today we are celebrating the achievements of those students who have excelled in their study of history. We have both initiates and current members of Phi Alpha Theta here. Will my current members of Phi Alpha Theta please stand up and be recognized? Sydney. Okay. Thank you. As new members, you will be expected to live up to the ideals of Phi Alpha Theta, keeping in mind the three important forces contained in the words philia, anthropos, theos, love, humanity, and God. Among the invaluable lessons that may be learned from the study of history and the ideals of the society are the spirit of respect, which fosters a sincere regard for the rights of each individual, the belief in community of all persons, which renders abhorrent all ideas that tend to foment national hatreds, racial and sexual discrimination, or any form of injustice, the need for historians to search for truth and to accept the responsibility for making decisions in terms of their meaning for others as well as for themselves. Do you accept the challenge of striving to live up to these ideals of Phi Alpha Theta? Yes. Thank you. And so I am pleased to welcome you as newly initiated members of the Sigma Lambda chapter of Phi Alpha Theta. And we have both your certificates, one from the department and one from the national office. Yeah. Bring on this. I'm gonna get on both sides, girl.
I didn't know I was allowed to front.
Well, you know your history undergrad, so. Look at right one. Good job. And now we'll have Dr. Ra and Dr. Lewis come up to acknowledge all of our recipients of awards for their scholastic excellence that they have achieved. They all have an average of 3.25 and above. Oh, these are not in. Any from the bottom up? You got fired last year for this.
Fachal and Miguel. Fachal. You twist and you join. Felix, merci. Felix. Sawani Besset.
I'll play it.
James Bishop. Derek Blackwood.
Put your arm in front of it.
Caroline Blunt. Brittany Campbell. Jacob Davis. Yasun Dean. Menelik Eldridge. Felicia Fung. Desher. Belen Gutierrez. Summer Hall. Sean Hampton. Jerry's Holt. Supervisor 7. Anel Jackson. Melvin Johnson. Anisha Lawrence. Terrence Jones. Sydney Lawson. Angul Major. Bobby Makins. Samuel Martinez. Ida McLaughlin. Jay, I'm sorry, Jay. Juan McCall. Shannon McRae. Brianna Daniel. Nadozie. Omalikan Ugunula. Emily Pitt. Cherise Ray. Yolanda Roy. Erin Squire Wilson. Sullivan. Dan.
Now, everybody, can you all group together and get a picture with Mr. Baker?
Oh, wait. Yeah. Okay. Can you, okay.
All right, everybody get to know one another. Come on in. Okay, one more. One more. Thank you. Excuse me.
Right. So, Dr. Wilson. Okay, now we're coming to the end of our program. We're giving out the Superlative Awards. And it's always bittersweet because a lot of these go to our graduating seniors. One thing I do need to do, I apologize, I forgot to do this when we were doing the Phi Alpha Theta induction. So for my graduating Phi Alpha Theta seniors, Mr. Vischer, Mr. Isabor, Ms. Goff, Ms. Lawson, you're graduating in December, come on up. I have something for you. All of the students, they participated. We hosted. Oh, Brianna! Oh my gosh, you're graduating December. Why didn't you say something? Oh my gosh. I apologize. All of the Phi Alpha Theta students, they participated in our Mid-Atlantic Regional Conference that we had a few weeks ago. We hosted it here at Bowie State University, and they all participated in it, which is why they all got honor cords. Aaron! Oh my gosh! And you all knew, you know I can't remember all this stuff. I've had so many things to do. Help me out. Now stay up here. All right. So the first award we're going to give is the Leopold von Ranke and the Carter G. Woodson Award. And Leopold von Ranke was known as the founder of the modern historical method. He was probably the most important historian to shape the historical profession as it emerged in Europe and in the United States in the late 19th century. His promotion of the seminar method and use of primary sources in historical research became a staple of the discipline. Carter Goodwin Woodson, as I just messed up his name. Sorry about that. You know, you always say Carter G. Woodson. Carter Godwin Woodson is known as the father of Black history. His advocacy of Negro History Week and the documentation of those of African descent as a topic worthy of scholarly study fostered the field of African American history and ultimately led to the establishment of Black History Month. This year's recipient likes Dungeons and Dragons, anime, specifically My Hero Academia, and sculpting in his spare time, which is limited since he is constantly studying history. Aaron Terrell Squire Wilson is a 23-year-old commuting senior at Bowie State University who has grown up in the Maryland cities of Lanham and Greenbelt. At Bowie State, he's a member of the Sigma Lambda chapter of Phi Alpha Theta History Honor Society, and he has presented at the annual conference for the past 2 years. While here at the university, he is focused primarily on his studies, and after graduation, he plans to volunteer either at the International Spy Museum in Washington, D.C., or in his hometown at the Greenbelt Museum. After a revision of his resume, he intends to find employment within his neighborhood during the fall to prepare for a spring 2020 entry into graduate school. Aaron has maintained a 3.903 overall GPA. Whichever way you want to take it, 3.9. Our recipient for the Charles V. Hamilton Haynes Walton Award is not here, but I will read the award anyway. Political scientist Charles Vernon Hamilton co-wrote with Stokely Carmichael the seminal volume Black Power, The Politics of Liberation in America, that explained a particular turn in the civil rights struggle and limitations in the model when confronted with the struggles that African Americans faced outside of the South. This publication popularized the term institutional racism and reflected Hamilton's specific focus on activist scholarship. Haynes Walton is credited with solidifying the field of black politics within the discipline of political science. The first doctoral graduate in political science from Howard University, he was co-founder of the National Conference of Black Political Scientists and vice president of the American Political Science Association. He was a prolific scholar who authored more than 80 articles, 24 book chapters, and 25 books. Leah Kristen Roll will graduate next month with a bachelor's degree in government and a minor in pre-law. She maintains a 3.92 GPA. A native of Baltimore, Maryland, she is extremely passionate about helping others and eliciting positive change in her community. Her commitment to public service stems from her experience as an Elijah Cummings Youth Leadership Fellow, where she worked arduously to build bridges between the African American community and the Jewish community in Baltimore through various facets of government and mediation. Furthermore, during her tenure at Bowie State University, Leah has constantly stayed involved serving as the president of the Radiance Freshman Leadership and Solidarity Institute, as the sophomore class vice president, as a near-peer mentor, and as the junior class president. Leah currently works for Senator Joanne C. Benson in Annapolis as Senator Benson's legislative director. During the 2019 legislative session, Leah helped to get 6 bills passed in addition to funding for a number of bond initiatives in the community. Leah is currently preparing for law school with the Fannie Angelos program offered by the University of Baltimore School of Law. She aspires to become an attorney and remain active in Maryland politics. Our Putney Award recipient isn't here, so I'm gonna, okay.
I can tell her that you give her an award. She's in my class.
I'm gonna play the video anyway because we don't play it all the time, and it's good to know who helped to found our department here.
She's in my
Finally tonight, readers of Tom Brokaw's book, The Greatest Generation, will recognize the name Martha Putney. Her remarkable life spanned multiple generations and a large slice of American history, a history she, by the way, helped to write. Martha Putney died in December at the age of 92. Today, she was laid to rest among her fellow heroes. Tom Brokaw has her story.
It is the end of a long journey for Dr. Martha Settle Putney, historian, teacher, mentor, veteran. From a small town in Pennsylvania to Arlington National Cemetery, a tiny woman with a big life, But how did she get here? The final resting place of presidents and heroes, generals and admirals. First, to escape life as a maid, she went to Howard University to get a teaching degree. But jobs for a young black woman were limited. And World War II was breaking out.
I knew before I went in that this was going to be an event that would change things, which I didn't know. And that's one of the reasons why I went in.
Martha was commissioned as a lieutenant in the new Women's Army Corps, WACS, and trained medical technicians in the Midwest, but only in all-black outfits. The military was as segregated as civilian life, and Martha knew that would have consequences after the war.
You wouldn't have a man fighting for his life and coming out expecting for that big distance. No, or a woman working as a surgical technician, coming out and going back in pieces.
When the war was over, Martha got a doctorate in history from the University of Pennsylvania and set out to educate generations of young blacks beyond her classrooms at Bowie State and her alma mater, Howard.
She fully digested the fact that, you take what you're given, but, you rise above that. You don't have to be angry. You kind of just do the next thing. You just keep on going.
And today, one of those at Dr. Putney's graveside ceremonies was a man who was a beneficiary of the generation of African Americans who came home from the war to change their world.
Finally, the government started to recognize something had to change, and it was that pressure coming from the civil rights organizations and coming from all of these hundreds of thousands of African Americans who had served and said, now it's our turn to enjoy the benefits of this country.
Dr. Putney died in December at the age of 92, a historian who made history in her own determined way. Tom Brokaw, NBC News, Arlington National Cemetery.
So we give this award to a student who shows leadership in the department and in the university and his or her community. And this year, the award goes to one of our most congenial students. I really think that his parents stressed education because his older sister, Rosa, who graduated from Bowie State as well, was an excellent student. Jose is not here, but Jose Romero Ventura loves history. He's a history secondary education major, and he's the reigning Mr. Education of the Bowie Education Association and a new initiate of Groove Fly Groove. He would like to teach high school after graduation, but really the sky is the limit. We believe Jose can achieve anything he sets his mind to. Thank you. So our next award, and it goes hand in hand with the Martha Putney Award because when she left Bowie, the chair was vacant, and a very young M. Sammy Miller assumed that position. This award is named in honor of Dr. Miller. He has served Bowie State University for more than 45 years. It's really honing in on 50 at the moment. And he has held various teaching and administrative capacities. So the Chair's Award is given to a student who has positively promoted the Department of History and Government. This year's recipient typically lets her professors know what she is and is not going to do. She claimed to have a fear of public speaking, but has represented BSU at several conferences, including Phi Alpha Theta and Pi Sigma Alpha. So Deja Goff is a graduating senior with a bachelor's degree in history and a minor in philosophy. Sophomore year, and upon graduation, she plans to continue her studies at Bowie State University and obtain a Master of Arts in Teaching. This award comes with Dr. Miller's favorite food. He's in class right now, but he does want to surprise you. So it comes with his favorite food. Lay's potato chips. Congratulations. Okay. Our next award is the Spotlight Award. And this was introduced last year. It's presented to a student who deserves recognition for pursuing exceptional goals or performing extraordinary feats. So Raekwon Ray Conaway is the second oldest of 4 boys. He was born, raised, and educated in Southwest Baltimore, between the Edmondson Village and Pigtown neighborhoods. Raekwon is a first-generation college student majoring in government and hopes to complete a master's degree in political science to prepare him for future public or political service. Mr. Conaway has gained valuable experience by serving as the 10th District Youth Commissioner on the Baltimore City Youth Commission, where he held the positions of Chairman of the Recreation and Mentoring Committee and Acting Chair of the Commission prior to stepping down in April of 2017. Raekwon currently works as the Program Manager for the Community Law and Actions, Leadership Development and Advocacy Program, specializing in school-based programming. At CLIA, he manages the Corporate Job Shadowing Program that places high school juniors and seniors at legal and advocacy organizations. Ray also manages the Youth Advisory Council that is comprised of students, student advocates from various Baltimore City public high schools. He leads the 6-week Summer Leadership Institute that trains students in civic engagement, public speaking, community engagement, research, and other skills. He has represented Bowie State University not only at conferences nationally, but internationally as well. She's gonna come up here. Because he's currently running for office. Congratulations, Raekwon. So, we're about to conclude our program and get on to the food, but I do want to mention we have several graduating seniors who have maintained averages above 3.5, and I just wanted to let you know who they are. Summer Hall, Leah Raw, Sharice Ray, Aaron Squire Wilson, Chukwuma Isamore, James Bisher, Brianna O'Daniel, and Lauren Myler. And as I said at the beginning of the program, nearly a third of our students were being honored this evening because of their high GPAs, and so we just think that this is phenomenal. We get on y'all, but we're very proud.
We have one more. We have actually 2 more presentations. The first one is for someone who just came aboard and has dedicated herself to the department, to all of its efforts. She's really thrown herself in above and beyond when it comes to everything that we've needed, and we couldn't keep going without her. Ms. Buck Hurley, thank you on behalf of the And the last thing, if I could have all the members of the Lambda Sigma chapter of Phi Alpha Theta up here. All of you here? All right.
New people.
Including the new people. Well, anyway, on behalf of the Sigma Lambda chapter Phi Alpha Theta, they would like to thank their advisor, who through tireless hours, hard work, and dedication, has always been there for the students and for her colleagues.
I'm still gonna yell at y'all. Those papers are still due. Especially yours.
Well, once again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us on this great occasion, and also thank Mr. Baker for joining us again. It's been a pleasure, and we welcome you to enjoy the refreshments. Have a good evening.
Bowie State University chapter of Omega Psi Phi, and they wanted to present a token of appreciation to Mr. Baker for his coming today. Jose!
Told you he'd show up. Told you. Give him time.
Running.
Did you go out there and call him? I can text him the whole time.
Thank you so much. Jose Romero Ventura, please come up here. This is the recipient of the Martha Putney Award. Thank you. And he was also inducted into Phi Alpha Theta this evening. Here. Wait, get a picture with Ms. Martha.
Right after I went over the first place, I gave her the buoy because y'all still
I'll let you know.
That was How you doing? I'm Roger Davis.